like the fact that the seam for the UVs is going straight, running down this way, so I'm going to go ahead and actually move the convert to editable poly. I want to run it down right here. Something over here. Wrap. Edit. Show vertex. There we go. I'm going to make a couple of changes to the UV layout because of some research I did with deep UV and how to get certain things working the way I want. Mainly, I want back flat. Alright, now if you actually go in and select everything but the edges, it will keep your edges the way that they are and will relax without them, which is what I'm looking for. Alrighty, looks good. relax it as well as I'd like, so I'm going to do a little bit of my own. Alright, time for the hand. Now, one of the things I like to do is put the fingers together. And what that lets you do is normally you would have, some black seams between the fingers of, space where there isn't any map. The problem with that is that you have to allow for some blurring of the black coming in, so you have to make a border and whatever. This way, you've got, if it starts pulling in anything from the outside, it'll actually be more skin-colored pixels because it'll be pulling from the finger right next to it. Should have scaled this down some first. Using Control T for target weld. And all of this might seem counterintuitive because of the fact that it's actually introducing stretching into the fingers and whatnot, but it will provide a much easier time when it comes to texturing, which is what we're after. Also, remember the pads of the fingers are going to be seen a lot more than the insides, so that's why I'm giving them a lot less mapping space. evenly spaced. Almost done. Keep that separate until I get the rest of the thumb mapped out. this one I might have to shove it straight out. Alrighty, there's the hand. Next up is the legs, and they are going to take a nice little bit of time. I'm going to start with cylindrical. Okay, so selected the top of the leg that I'm going to do the cylindrical map to. UVW map, cylindrical, and you can hit fit at any time and it will constrain it. Now click here and I will get the gizmo so that I can actually rotate, fit, rotate, fit. And you can notice this one green line, all the rest are yellow. That's where it's actually making the seam for the cylinder to unwrap. So I'm going to change to local and move this so that the green is going down the inside. Right there. Alright. Collapse. And I know I'm going to need all of these when it comes time to fit them together, so I'm not going into my UVW again until I get most all of them. UVW, cylindrical, give me the gizmo, rotate, put it on the inside, fit, collapse all. I'll go ahead and do all of this in one fell swoop. UVW map, cylindrical, fit, rotate that around to the inside. W and edit. Alright, so first thing, I'm going to divide this window up. That'll help me get a better, there we go. Alright, first thing I want to do is separate all the pieces out. Missing two. Top piece. Middle piece. And wow, it did an interesting job of unwrapping these. Got a little bit of cleanup. And if you double click in an area that needs to be welded, it will automatically do it. So cylindrical doesn't do the best of jobs unless it's a perfect cylinder that you're unwrapping, and there's always going to be a little bit of cleanup that you got to do. Just realize it before you use it. I'm going to let Deep UV do some of this. So all I really want to do is get these things welded together. And it looks like I've got a face missing from right here. And actually, had I not done this in editable mesh, wouldn't be having this problem. Edit mesh will let you divide among triangles. Control B to break. All that matters is that they are welded and the seam is where you want. Deep UV will take care of the rest. Missing another face. Alrighty, about as far as I can get here in Max. Collapse. Map selected. Go to DPV. Relax. Actually, I don't want it to relax quite that much. Nice and even, but the problem is that now there is overlapping. So I'm going to need to go in and take that out. Alright, so I like this area. I'm going to start with the layout up here. gotta realize that it's gonna narrow a little bit. There's not really any getting around that. Also remember, when you're limited in map size, you're you want to be able to fit as much on the map as possible. If this leg was unwrapped in the zigzag shape that it was, and let's say I did it in several pieces so that they could all be as as distortion free as possible, they would be so small on the map that it would pretty much defeat the purpose. I mean, you would have to be just as creative with painting your textures as I'm going to have to be now, with a little bit of distortion, but with I'm going to be able to make this thing a lot bigger on the texture sheet because it's so geometric. Pieces are going to potentially stretch pretty big, so I want to leave them a little bit larger than they actually are. Alright, so let's see what's left. Planar map that. The eye. Only thing left is the leg. So I'm going to collapse that. Delete this leg. Go back in and select down where it was. Yeah, I think that was it. I might take off one more row. Yeah, I'll leave it like that. It would have taken a lot longer to select all of those out here in this mode, so once they're already laid out in the UVs, I like to I held down shift and clicked on one of the arrows, so it gives me a clone option box. I can either say object or element. I want object. So now it's a separate piece with the pivot point in the center. I hit the mirror button and I say no clone, attach, 3 for open edges, control click for verts, weld, and it's now a solid piece again. But now the pixel density is off on the hand and the legs, so I need to convert this to an editable mesh. Save real quick. Map selected. Go over to deep UV. Selected. Select all. To options. And I want equal areas, preserve orientation, pack selection, export, send UV update. All. Convert to an editable poly. Alright, now I need to decide how I'm going to arrange this thing. square. First I'm going to scale it all down to something that I think will fit. And I want the head to have a little bit more space than everything else. So I'm going to right away scale it up to there we go. Alright. Move everything off to the side. You can pretty much keep it in Sync 2 mode. I'm not going to be looking at the model, so let me fill this up. Actually be more don't see the other leg. Ignore back facing. Doesn't seem to want to let me break it off. So I'm going to manually go to here, clone to object. Oop. I'm actually going to detach. This proves to be too hard to pack, I might be breaking it up. As much as I hate seams, I'd rather have more space. And then if I find that everything doesn't look like it's going to fit, grab all of it and scale it up a little bit. Same deal if I think I can handle more. Now, if I have to turn the head, I'm actually going to grab that geometry and flip it as well. The point of doing that is so that when I paint it, I want it to be coordinated to left, right to right. Not many pieces to work with, so it's going to take a little bit more time to arrange this stuff. Might actually just scale this down. No, I'm not going to do that. One of the things I'll do is if I find that I do have extra room, I will scale some of this stuff up. Especially in the areas that will need it the most. And it looks like I'm going to actually have some extra space right here in the middle, so I'm going to figure out a way to use it. I actually also have a couple of more things to lay out on this map that were hidden. And the eye can never ever be too big. I mean, this would be too big, but for the most part you can't get too large. This is the inside of the mouth that never got UV mapped. Actually, this tells me that it wasn't built correctly, because it should be doing something different. Collapse this. So that's 2 more polys to put somewhere else. Alright, so I still have to make the geometry teeth. I'm probably going to put them somewhere in here. And I actually have little pouches that the fairies go in. And they all need mapping. I'm going to map them before I combine them. Now most people would actually split some of these corners so that you would get multiple edges, but not poop. No. I much prefer having no seams. Now, with programs like Deep UV or Deep Paint, you can get rid of almost any and all evidence of seams, but that's only with a color map. Now that normal maps are starting to become a lot more proficient, or prolific anyway, normal seams are extremely hard to hide. And the reason being because the program has to adjust the normals across the seam in real time. It can say, because normals have a specific direction based on which area they're facing, like of the actual model. There's not just surface space. There's an actual like direction to it. And if you don't, when your UVs are mirrored, it has to recognize that they're all of a sudden switching directions, and it can do that, and it will actually change the direction of the surface of your UVs. Actually, I'm going to do this, and that will put the shading I put on the bottom on both sides, which will be useful. And what will end up happening is you'll get a really, really ugly seam that looks like a knife cut across the model. And you can take your normal map into Deep Paint and blur it across so it is the exact same color, and you'll still get that. It varies from engine to engine based on the checker pattern here, based on how well it can do the change, but for the most part I still haven't seen an engine that's able to take care of it perfectly. So I still am extremely I'm all about keeping as few seams as possible no matter what. Planar map. I've worked on 2 games now that have used normal maps, and both engines were totally proprietary, written by different coders, and they both had the same problem of what looks like a knife cut down the center. It makes it even more important to hide your seams now, so that you don't have that ugly look. It's especially noticeable down the center. Alrighty. So I'm going to take all of these. Collapse. Now I'm kind of going to do what, I don't really want to bother going back to deep UV for this, so I'm going to do what I used to do for this kind of stuff. And that is manually relax. Also manually figure out the size they need to be. To be about the same. So pretty densely packed. I can scale this one up again. Bottom of the foot can always look good. Alright, now if you want to kind of examine how much space you're taking up, you can click on this and examine. So, I mean, there's a couple areas with where there's blank. I'm going to use some of this area for the teeth planes. But for the most part, this thing's pretty filled up. I'm actually going to take this one and flip it so that I could do... No, it's not going to work. Never mind. Alright, leave them all right side up. The only thing that is sideways is this leg, and it just fits better that way, so... Alright, now... the setup for making your mirror image, you want to make it a copy, and now instead of actually deleting the things, you want to grab them and say hide selected. The reason being because you will probably have to go in and make changes to your UVs. And if this is the exact same object, just with some stuff hidden, you will be able to save the UVs from the one that's correct and reapply them to the one that you but only as long as you hide them. And it'll be easier to see which parts are overlapping. You could do this. Switch to element. Oops. And if you can, there you go. So these are all the parts that are being mirrored. Alright, so these are the unmirrored pieces. Now you would apply the same texture to both of them, and what will happen is anytime you change the UVs to the main one, you just unwrap, save them as something like, I normally call it temp, collapse that, put one on here, load, double click on that, and it will update your changes to the right one, so that way if you move the model, change the UVs, something like that, you can alter it. If you'd made it an instance and then you'd hidden those stuff, the main one would get them hidden as well. If you'd actually deleted those faces, then that temp UVW file would not load on this separate one because it's not the exact same model. Right now it's the same model, it just has all of these pieces hidden. And if you ever accidentally mess up you can snap it using vertices. Alright, so that's how I unwrap, and the next step is texturing.